Hi, I'm Matt from the HMO platform. We help landlords across the UK to get on course towards profitability, wealth and success in an ethical way using our next level HMO and co-living strategies. In this video, we're going to cover the differences between HMO licensing and HMO planning. First of all, if you're not clued up in the different use classes for HMOs, then I suggest you go back and watch our video on HMO planning permissions before watching any further. So when it comes to the differences between licensing and planning, there are very key distinctions, and people often get confused. And it's because they're dictated by two different Acts of Parliament. So your licence for your HMO is governed by the Housing Act, and the planning permission is under the Planning Act. So two different sets of rules to follow. The licence is issued by the Private Housing Department of the Council, and the planning permission for your HMO is given by the Planning Department. Now it's key to understand that if something's got a licence, it doesn't necessarily mean it's got planning permission. And if it's got planning permission, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get a licence. You'd like to think that there is some joined up thinking between the different departments and the different Acts of Parliament, but there isn't necessarily. I think as we move forward, there is going to be more joined up thinking between the two council departments, but right now you can get a licence on a property which doesn't have planning and vice versa. So the licensing department will look at the room sizes, amenity space and the safety of the property. Planning will look at other things like parking, bike storage and bin storage. They're looking for different things and you're ticking different boxes for each. So as an example, you might have a property which is big enough for housing standards to house 12 people. So you can get a licence for 12, but that probably requires planning permission because you've hit more than 6 people in that property. And as soon as we get to the 7th person, we will require planning permission to be able to use it. So we can get a licence for 12, but we only have planning for 6 people to live there. Councils can talk to each other sometimes. For example, one of the councils we work with will only give us a licence up to the number of people that the property has planning permission for. In another area we work in, they will give you a licence for the number of people that can fit in the property regardless of the planning permission that's in place. We have a property where we have a licence for 12 people but only planning for 7. Another example is that you could get a licence for only 6 people because the property is only safe for 6 people, but you might be able to get planning permission for 7 or 8. Now that happened more in the past and it's happening less and less now, because if you don't have the correct housing standards, it's harder to get the planning permission through. Planners just don't like it. As I said earlier, I would not be surprised if planning and licensing start talking to each other more, so that you have to be able to get a license on that property before they will grant you planning permission, which makes complete sense to me. But just be careful, especially when you're in an Article 4 area, because there is more awareness of it, but people don't understand the differences between licensing and planning. I have seen agents talk about planning when they mean licensing and vice versa. They could also try and sell properties that have lost their C4 planning use. It means that properties that may have had a license in the past might not be able to get planning permission in the future. For example, let's take an HMO that's been operating for 20 years. So it's had 5 tenants in there for that period of time, and then the landlord changes and lets it to a family for say 6 months. But as soon as that happened, it's just lost its planning use as a C4 HMO, but it's still got the HMO licence in place, so it could be sold by an agent with the HMO licence in place, but legally it's lost its planning use and fallen back into C3 planning. And you can't go back to C4 without a new planning application. So I hope that's cleared up some of the differences between licensing and planning for you, and if it sparked any further thoughts or questions, then the answers may be in some of our other videos. So check out our video on planning, which is on the screen now, and then we've got another one on licensing as well. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe by clicking down here, and see you in the next video.